we begin the 4th chapter of Moments in the Kingdom of Fools. Well, just as the name suggests, it is a kingdom full of fools. So you can imagine what the story will be. That's by A.K. Ramanujan. Let's know a little about our author before we move on. So yeah, Attipet Krishnaswamy Ramanujan was a poet. Now you see the feathers in his cap. He was a poet, a scholar, a philologist, folklorist, translator, and a playwright. So philologist is when you're talking about the literary texts, yeah, all about the details, the authenticity and the meaning, all about it. Folklorist is when you're talking about the myths, the beliefs, the traditional ones, that's about it. You actually take folklore as an academic subject. So he had done that. Translator and a playwright, he used to write plays. His academic research ranged across 5 languages. Wow, multilingual we call him. English, Kannada, Tamil, Telugu and Sanskrit. He published works on both classical and modern variants of this literature. He went to both the ends. He has been awarded the Padma Shri in 1976 and the MacArthur Prize Fellowship in 1983. So yeah, a very well-known gentleman, we must say. So let's move on to the plot of the story and let's see how much fun it has in store for us. Yeah, lots and lots of fun. In the Kingdom of Fools is about a kingdom ruled by a foolish king and his silly minister. Now the king is foolish and his minister is silly. So you can imagine the kingdom. It is a folk tale and gives the message that one should stay away from foolish people, else one is bound to suffer. You better stay away from the foolish people, otherwise you are definitely going to suffer. In order to tackle foolish people, one should employ wisdom and not logic. Use your wisdom, not your logic. Don't use your brain. Use the wisdom that you have, because or else you're going to be stuck out there. Yeah. So yeah, let's move to the chapter. In the Kingdom of Fools, both the king and the minister were idiots. Wow. They didn't want to run things like other kings, so they decided to change the night into day and day into night. Okay, so you see, that's the king. I don't want to be, the common. I don't want to be the rat race. I want to be exclusive. I want to be unique. So just like the other kings do, I will not do. I will do something different. That was the mentality of this king. So yeah, what he did was he changed night into day and day into night. So what was that all about? They ordered that everyone should be awake at night till their fields and run their businesses only after dark, and go to bed as soon as the sun came up. So basically, you had to work during the night and sleep during the day. Anyone who disobeyed would be punished with death. The people did as they were told for the fear of death. Now obviously, because they were told if you don't do that, then you will be killed to death. And nobody wanted to die, so everyone obeyed it. The king and the minister were delighted at the success of their project. They thought, oh wow, this is amazing. So let's go for it. One day, a guru and his disciple arrived in the city. So it so happened in this city, in this kingdom of fools, there was a guru who came with his student. A disciple is basically a student. It was a beautiful city. It was broad daylight, but there was no one about. Now they came there during the day and they were shocked to see that there is nobody. So just like it happens at night, there's nobody, everyone's in their home. So for this kingdom, this was night basically, because all had gone to sleep. Everyone was asleep, not a mouse stirring. Not a mouse stirring as in no people around. It was desolate, it was quiet, lonely. Even the cattle had been taught to sleep by day. People, okay. But even the cattle, the cows, all of them were made to sleep during the day. The two strangers were amazed by what they saw around them and wandered around the town till evening. They went around the town till evening to see what was going on. When suddenly the whole town woke up and went about its nightly business. So it was during it was evening, so just as the sun set, and people were up. Yeah, they were up and they all started their business just like they would have done it during the day. So these people were wondering what's going on. The two men were hungry. Now that the shops were open, now when they came to the town, the shops were closed, so they got nothing to eat. Now they were open, they went to buy some groceries. To their astonishment, they were shocked. They found that everything cost the same. Anything and everything you buy, you had to pay the same amount of money. A single dudu, whether they bought a measure of rice or a bunch of bananas, it cost a dudu. That's money. Basically, in those days, they used to address it as dudu, so that's money. The Guru and his disciple were delighted. They were shocked. They said, this is strange. Even if I buy so much rice, I'm paying the same amount. If I buy so much rice, I'm paying the same amount. That's funny, you know. Even if I'm buying a bunch of bananas, I'm paying the same amount. They had never heard of anything like this. They could buy all the food they wanted for a rupee. It was so cheap. They were really shocked at what was happening. So they could buy all the food they could in that rupee. When they had cooked and eaten, the Guru realized. Now, Guru is a person full of wisdom. Okay, so he realized that this was a kingdom of fools and it wouldn't be a good idea for them to stay there. He says, look, I find something very fishy here, something very strange, something very wrong, something very odd. I don't think this is the right place for us to stay. We should move on from here to another. Now these gurus, you know, they move from place to place. They keep wandering. There is no place for us. Let's go, he said to his disciple. He told his student, look, I think we better move away from here. This is not the right place to be in. But the disciple didn't want to leave the place. He's like, yeah, such a beautiful place. We are having anything and everything in that 1 rupee. Don't you think we should be here? Everything was cheap here. All he wanted was good, cheap food. Now this disciple, this student of the Guru was a foodie. He loved food. So he was happy because he was getting it so cheap. The Guru said, they are all fools. This won't last very long and you can't tell what they'll do to you next. He says, look, this is very temporary. It will not go on like that forever. So it's better to move away from here. It's not the right place to be in. But the disciple wouldn't listen to the Guru's wisdom. He was so happy and so stuck with that food part that he did not realize he is disobeying his Guru. He wanted to stay. The Guru finally gave up and said, do what you want. I am going, and he left. He says, okay, if that's what you want, be it. You can stay here, but not me. I am leaving. The disciple stayed on. He still stayed there. He ate his fill every day. Every day he ate good amount of food, bananas and ghee and rice and wheat, and he grew fat like a street side sacred bull. Sacred as in connected with God. We all know a sacred book, sacred place, religious purpose, and so deserving veneration. So just like you have a holy book, so he became like that holy bull. Nice and stout he became, after eating all that food. One bright day, a thief broke into a rich merchant's house. Now he was living his life, aram se, no tension, no janjat. He was eating his fill. One fine day, what happened? So a thief broke into a rich merchant's house. Broke as in he went into a rich merchant's house. He went to steal. He had made a hole in the wall and sneaked in. He went in from that hole in the wall, and as he was carrying out his loot, so whatever he had taken to, rob, as he was walking out, the wall of the old house collapsed on his head and killed him on the spot. Now this thief was carrying that thing, whatever he robbed of the house, and he was moving out. So as he was going out of that hole again, which he made, from where he came, that wall collapsed. It fell down and it fell on the thief, and the thief died on the spot there itself. His brother ran to the king and complained, "Your Highness, when my brother was pursuing his ancient trade, a wall fell on him and killed him." So beautifully put up, so decently put up. What he says, just catch the words. He went to the king to complain. He says, "Look, Your Highness, my brother was pursuing as in continuing, his ancient trade." What was the ancient trade? Yes, you're right, robbing. So he did not tell he had gone to rob. He was pursuing his ancient trade. The wall fell on him and killed him. This merchant is to blame. Now, whose house he went to steal, this man is to be blamed. He should have built a good strong wall. He says, this man is to be blamed. If he had built a nice strong wall, this wouldn't have happened and my brother wouldn't have died. You must punish the wrongdoer, the person who's done wrong, and compensate the family for this injustice. Compensate as in give something, basically money, in recognition of loss or suffering. So because I lost my brother, the merchant needs to compensate. He needs to pay us something for the same. So he needs to compensate for this injustice. The king said, "Justice will be done, don't worry," and at once summoned the owner of the house. Summoned as in he ordered the owner to be present. He called for that merchant. When the merchant arrived, the king questioned him, "What's your name?" "Such and such, Your Highness," whatever his name was. "Were you at home when the dead man burgled your house?" He says, "Were you at home when he robbed your house?" Burgled as in he robbed. "Yes, my lord. He broke in and the wall was weak. It fell on him." The accused pleads guilty. Accused as in the person who is charged with or on trial for a crime. So he was accused, the merchant, because he had built a weak wall. So he says he pleads guilty. "Your wall killed this man's brother. You have murdered a man. We have to punish you." He says, "Look, you have done wrong. This man has died because you built a weak wall and now we need to punish you." "Lord," said the helpless merchant, "I didn't put up the wall. It's really the fault of the man who built the wall. He didn't build it right. You should punish him." He says, "How is it my fault? I did not build that wall. The person who built that wall, he didn't do it correctly. He didn't do it strongly. So it's not my fault. So instead of punishing me, you should be punishing that guy." "Who is that? Who built the wall?" "My lord, this wall was built in my father's time. When my father was there, that time this wall was built. I know the man. He's an old man now. He lives nearby." He says, obviously now he must have grown old. So he says you can, call him. The king sent out messengers to bring in the bricklayer. Now the person who made the wall, the bricklayer. Person whose job is to build structures like with bricks. So he was called who had built the wall. They brought him tied hand and foot. They tied his hand and foot and they brought him. "You there, did you build this man's wall in his father's time?" So now His Highness, the king, is asking him, had you built that wall when this man's father was alive? "Yes, my lord, I did. Of course I did." "What kind of a wall is this that you built? It has fallen on a poor man and killed him." He says, "What kind of a wall have you built? That wall has fallen and killed the person. You've murdered him. We have to punish you by death." He says, "Because of you, this man died. Now we have to punish you by death. We are giving you the punishment of death." Before the king could order the execution, as in carrying out of a sentence of death on a condemned person, so before his order could actually be carried out, the poor bricklayer pleaded. He says, "Wait, please listen to me before you give your orders. Don't give a final verdict. First listen to me. I have something to say. It's true, I built this wall and it was no good. Agreed. But that was because my mind was not on it. When I was building that wall, my mind was distracted. It was somewhere else. I was not concentrating. I remember very well a dancing girl who was who was going up and down that street all day with her anklets jingling, and I couldn't keep my eyes or my mind on the wall that I was building. A dancing girl is a female professional dancer, the one who professionally dances. So she was going up and down that street that day when I was building the wall, I remember. And her anklets, the payal, the ghungru, they were jingling all the time. So I was getting distracted with that. You must get that dancing girl. I know where she lives. Says, not me, because of her. Now let's not forget, the blame, the monkey is going from one shoulder to the other. Let's remember, this is a kingdom of fools. So you see the foolishness passing on? Yes. Says, I know where she lives. You should punish that girl. Because of her, I couldn't concentrate and make a, strong wall. You are right. The case deepens. He says, oh yeah, that's right. You should not be punished. Let's call her. We must look into it. It is not easy to judge such complicated cases. He's saying this case seems really complicated. I need to look into it carefully. Let's get that dancer wherever she is. Says, fine, let's get her now and find out what it is. The dancing girl, now an old woman, came trembling to the court. Now then, like even she was talking of that old time. So obviously that girl had also become old by now. Yeah, she was now an old woman, came trembling, she was shivering, she came to the court. Did you walk up and down that street many years ago while this poor man was building a wall? Did you see him? Says, did you do that purposely? Yes, my lord, I remember it very well. She says, of course, I remember seeing this man. So you did walk up and down with your anklets jingling. Your payal, your ghungru was making the sound. You were young and you distracted him. So he built a bad wall. It has fallen on a poor burglar and killed him. You've killed an innocent man. You'll have to be punished. Now just imagine, he was a burglar and he says, you've killed an innocent man. You will have to be punished. Well, that's the wise, should I say the wise king? The foolish one. She thought for a minute and said, now obviously even she did not want to be killed. So she thought for a minute and said, my lord, wait. I know why I was walking up and down that street. There was a reason why I was doing that. I had given some gold to the goldsmith to make some jewelry for me. The goldsmith who makes jewelry, so I had given him some gold to make some jewelry. He was a lazy scoundrel. Scoundrel as in a dishonest or an unscrupulous person. He was very dishonest. Yeah, he was a lazy, dishonest person. He made so many excuses, said he would give it now and he would give it then and so on all day. He was the one who made me do up and down. I kept coming and going because he told me, okay, you come after 1 hour. Okay, you come after 2 hours. I will give it to you. He made me do that. That's the reason I was going up and down that road. He made me walk up and down to his house a dozen times. So many times he kept promising me, okay, I'll give it to you. Okay, I'll give it to you. But he never gave me. That was when this bricklayer saw me. Now, I did not go to distract him purposely. I was going to the goldsmith for the work. So I was traveling up and down and that was the time he saw me. It's not my fault, my lord. It's the damned goldsmith's fault. He says, it's not me, she says. She says, it's because of the goldsmith I had to do this. So I am not at fault. Poor thing, she's absolutely right, thought the king, weighing the evidence. Says, I think she's right. She is not at fault. She was going there for a reason. So weighing the evidence as in evaluating, he was comparing, he was thinking, okay, what she's saying is right. She cannot be at fault. We've got the real culprit at last. Yes, finally, we've got the culprit. Get the goldsmith wherever he is hiding. At once, the king's bailiffs searched for the goldsmith who was hiding in a corner of his shop. An official in a court of law who keeps order, looks after prisoners, etc. So he called for his bailiffs and said, now go quickly and search wherever he is, bring him. When he heard the accusation against him, he had his own story to tell. He says, why me? It's not my fault. He had another story to tell. So students, please remember, as the sequence goes, please go with the flow chart. How it all started, who started first, then it came to whom, then it came to whom. So you should know the flow chart. Yeah, you need to understand that. My lord, he said, I'm a poor goldsmith. It's true, I made this dancer come many times to my door. It is a fact. I agree. I admit. I gave her excuses because I couldn't finish making her jewelry before I finished the rich merchant's orders. I already had some pending job of the rich merchant. Who was the rich merchant? Whose wall had fallen. So you see, the whole thing went round and it has come back to the rich merchant where the whole story started from. So I was busy finishing his orders. So that's the reason I could not give her jewelry in time. They had a wedding coming and they wouldn't wait. You know how impatient rich men are. He says there was a wedding there. I had to give them their jewelry first. So obviously I had not finished it. So I wanted to finish the rich merchant's work and then start hers. That took me time. Who is this rich merchant who kept you from finishing this poor woman's jewelry? Made her walk up and down, which distracted this bricklayer, which made a mess of his wall, which has now fallen on an innocent man and killed him. Here you have the whole thing. Can you name him? He says, who is that rich merchant? The goldsmith named the merchant, and he was none other than the original owner of the house whose wall had fallen. The same person. Now justice had come full circle. All around it went. Thought the king back to the merchant. When he was rudely summoned back to the court, he arrived crying, "It wasn't me but my father who ordered the jewelry. He's dead. I'm innocent." He says, I knew nothing then. It was my father who had ordered it. So what's my fault in that? I'm totally innocent. But the king consulted his minister. You remember the silly minister? And ruled decisively. He came to a conclusion. It's true. Your father is the true murderer. He's dead, but somebody must be punished in his place. He says, agreed, your father is the culprit. He was the one. But now that he is dead, somebody must be punished in his place. Who should it be? You've inherited everything from that criminal father of yours, his riches as well as his sins. He says, your father was rich, he left you a lot of money, but because his sins have also come into your account. Whatever wrong actions he took, that also you have to pay for. I knew at once, even when I first set eyes on you, that you were at the root of this horrible crime. You must die. Says, I can't help it. It has to be you. We can do nothing. Your father is no longer there. So he was your father. So now you pay for it. You take care of this. And he ordered a new stake to be made. What's a stake? It's a wooden post to which a person was tied to for a punishment. You know, they hang that person, you have that wooden stake. That is what he did. They made that and he got made ready for the execution. As the servants sharpened the stake and got it ready for the final impaling of the criminal, impaling as in piercing with a sharp instrument. You know, they pierce, they make that sharp instrument thing. It occurred to the minister that the rich merchant was somehow too thin to be properly executed on the stake. He appealed to the king's common sense. So another set of foolishness coming up. He says this person is too thin. That stake is not that small. It's a broader thing. So this guy will not fit in there. He's too thin. It won't be easy to execute it. So he appealed. He tried to persuade someone. When you're appealing to do something by calling on principle, he went on to tell the king that look, this is not possible. He appealed to the king's common sense. How common was the common sense with the king? We know that. The king too worried about it. He says, oh yeah, how is it possible? He's too thin. What shall we do? He said. When suddenly it struck him. It just came into the mind of someone suddenly or unexpectedly. He says, and that all they needed to do was to find a man enough to fit the stake. So you see, that rich merchant's son was thin. He was not going to fit into that wooden frame to kill him. So they said, okay, let's do one thing. Now, because he's too thin, let's find someone of that size so that he can be killed. The servants were immediately sent all over the town looking for a man who would fit the stake. And their eyes fell on the disciple who had fattened himself for months on banana and rice and wheat and ghee. You see, the guru told him, his guru had actually told him, look, it's not going to last for long. You will have to pay for this. But he was not ready to listen to the wisdom. He stayed there. He ate, and he became fat, and fat. Now today, the king was looking for some fat person who would fit into that wooden frame and could be killed. And it was none other than this great disciple. So you see, the greed. What have I done wrong? I'm innocent. I'm a sannyasi, he cried. He says, why me? I'm totally innocent. I am a Hindu religious mendicant. I am a sannyasi. Why me? I've done nothing wrong. That may be true, but it's the royal decree that we should find a man fat enough to fit the stake, they said, and carried him to the place of execution. They told him it's the royal decree, as in it is an order given by the king, the foolish king. Yeah? We need to find someone fat who could fit into that stake, so we can only think of you. He remembered his wise guru's words now when he fell into trouble. This is a city of fools. You don't know what they will do next. Now remember, these were the words given by the guru. Yeah. So now those words are striking him. They came to his mind that my guru had told me this. While he was waiting for death, he prayed to his guru in his heart, asking him to hear his cry wherever he was. He was praying. He says, please help me out of this. I'm going to die. Just please help me out. The guru saw everything in a vision. Now see, gurus are, they get your prayers. They actually listen to your prayers. So he actually got that. He got his, the way he was crying from within, please to help me, save me. He had magic powers. He could see far and he could see the future as he could see the present and the past. So this guru had those powers. He had those magical powers where he could see the past, present and the future. He arrived at once to save his disciple who had got himself into such a scrap through love of food. He had got himself into a problematic situation. Why? Only because of food, the love of food. You remember, he was a foodie. So he got into that, and so the guru comes to save his disciple. As soon as he arrived, he scolded the disciple and told him something in a whisper. Then he went to the king and addressed him. O wisest of kings, who is greater, the guru or the disciple? He says, whom do you think is way greater? Is it the guru or the disciple? Of course the guru. No doubt about it. But why do you ask? Why are you asking me such a question? Then put me to the stake first. Put my disciple to death after me. He says, look, if that is the case, then in that case, please obey what I say. Put me to die first. Put me to the stake, and after me you kill him. When the disciple heard this, he understood and began to clamor. He went on, he started to say something. Me first. You brought me here first. Put me to death first, not him. He understood, the game that he was playing, the guru was playing. So he says, no, not him. You kill me. Y'all brought me here first to kill. You kill me first. The guru and the disciple now got into a fight about who should go first. The king was puzzled by this behavior. He couldn't understand. He says, what's going on? Why are they doing this? He asked the guru, why do you want to die? He is fat, he is fitting. Let him go. Why do you want to die? We chose him because we needed a fat man for the stake. So he is there. You shouldn't ask me such questions. Put me to death first, replied the guru. He says, don't ask me all this. Right now, first put me to death. Why? There's some mystery here. As a wise man, you must make me understand. He says, look, I know you are very wise, you're very smart. There is some mystery going on here. You need to explain to me. Will you promise to put me to death if I tell you? Asked the guru. He says, okay, I'll tell you what is behind this, why we are doing this. But will you put me to death after that? He says, okay. That's what he asked the guru. The king gave him his solemn word. Solemn as in formal and dignified. He says, yes, I will put you to death after you have told me what exactly it is. The guru took him aside, out of the servants' earshot. Servants were the people there, so that they could not hear. So he took the king a little far and whispered to him, do you know why we want to die right now, the two of us? We've been all over the world, but we've never found a city like this or a king like you. Says we've seen the whole world, all around we have traveled, but we've never come across a city like yours and a king like you. That stake is the stake of the God of justice. That stake that you have put, it is the God of justice. It's new. It has never had a criminal on it. It's a new thing. They made a new frame. So yes, nobody has died on it yet. Whoever dies on it first will be reborn as the king of this country. See the smart guru. He says, you know what? Whoever dies first on that stake, which is so new, right? He will be reborn. How? As the king of the country. And whoever goes next will be the future minister of this country. So you remember the king and the minister, the silly minister and the foolish king. So see the guru, how he's connecting it. He says, who dies first will become the king, and who dies second will become the minister. We are sick of our aesthetic life. This life that we are living, we are tired of it. Now we want to get out of it. It would be nice to enjoy ourselves as king and minister for a while. He's saying, wow, I'll become the king if I die first, and this disciple of mine will become my minister. And for a change, we are tired of being a saint, living a sannyasi's life. Now we want to live and experience the life of a king and the minister. So that will be great. Now keep your word, my lord. He says, now keep your promise. You had promised me, put us to death. Me first, remember? The king was now thrown into deep thought. He says, oh my God, is that the case? He didn't want to lose the kingdom to someone else in the next round of life. He's saying, even in the next birth, I want to be the king. I don't want to give this kingdom to anybody. He needed time. So he ordered the execution postponed to the next day and talked in secret with his minister. He says, okay, fine, let me think it over. I need a day. They postponed it to the next day, and he started discussing it with his minister. It's not right for us to give over the kingdom to others in the next life. He's saying, you and me, why should we do it? Why in the next life should we give both of them? Let's go on the stake ourselves, and we'll be reborn as king and minister again. He says, why give them? Let us two only die, and we'll only be reborn as the king and the minister. Holy men do not tell lies. He's saying, I'm sure he's not lying. He's a holy person. He's a religious person. He said, and the silly minister agreed. So he told the executioners, the people, the officials who carry out the sentence of death, who actually, when the king gives the sentence and they put the people to death, so he told them, we'll send the criminals tonight. When the first man comes to you, put him to death first, then do the same to the second man. Those are my orders. Don't make any mistake. Saying, we will send you the criminals in the night. Okay? The one who comes first, kill him. Then the second person will also come, kill him second. That night, the king and his minister went secretly to the prison, released the guru and the disciple. They released them, they let them free, disguised themselves as the two. They both became the guru and the disciple. They changed their form, and as arranged beforehand with loyal servants, they were taken to the stake and promptly executed. So the king and the minister, they became the guru and the disciple. They changed their form. The actual guru and disciple were set free, and these two went over there and they were immediately executed. They were killed. When the bodies were taken down to be thrown to crows and vultures, the people panicked. They were shocked. They said, this is the king and the minister. They saw before them the dead bodies of the king and the minister. They said, how did this happen? When did this happen and why? Because they were not to be killed. The city was in confusion. All of them were in total confusion. All night they moaned to feel or show sorrow for the death of someone. Their king and the minister had died. So they were all in grief. They were in sorrow, and discussed the future of the kingdom. They say, oh my God, now these two are gone, who will take care of the kingdom? Some people suddenly thought of the guru and the disciple and caught up with them as they were preparing to leave the town unnoticed. They wanted to just run away from there. The guru had come there to save the disciple, right? So they wanted to just run away from there. But the people thought, these two are smart. Let's approach them. We people need a king and a minister, said someone. Others agreed. They begged the guru and the disciple to be their king and their minister. They says, look, we request the two of you to be our king and minister. It didn't take many arguments to persuade the disciple. To persuade as in to convince him. But it took longer to convince the guru, to persuade the guru. They had to tell him, plead him, like you are wise, you can run the kingdom very wisely. And they had to tell him a lot of things. The disciple was happy. He says, I don't mind, I'll become the minister. But the guru took a lot of time. They finally agreed to rule the kingdom of the foolish king and the silly minister on the condition that they could change all the old laws. They says, okay, fine. If you want us to become the king and the ministers, we will make a change in everything. All the old laws that you people had, we are going to change them. From then on, night would again be night and day would again be day. And you could get nothing for a doo-doo. He says, don't. Now you will not get everything for that same amount of money. It became like any other place. It came back to a normal place. That was abnormal, working during the night and sleeping during the day. So they brought things back